Yeah, so we're going to talk some track and field now on this Tuesday edition of the SportsMax Zone. 2 days after Jamaica's 4x400-meter men's team failed in their bid to make it into the top 16 in the world at the NACA New Life Invitational in Nassau, Bahamas, veteran track and field coach Stephen Francis has put the Jamaica Athletics Association on blast for the relay team's predicament. Here's Francis speaking earlier Tuesday in an exclusive sit-down with Ricardo Chambers.
The president has a problem. The president has the issue that is Mr. Gale. Mr. Gale is a trying man, but he consistently gets let down by the appointments he makes. Jamaica historically has treated senior athletics as an adjunct to junior athletics. The same people are there, school principals, whatever, and their technical committees, making these decisions on issues they know absolutely nothing about. They know nothing about senior athletics. They might have some kind of resume in juniors, being a principal of a high school or being coach at high school and so on. And as a result of these problems, these personnel, they keep making stupid decisions when it comes to seniors. For example, they're deciding that they are using current year times to select world year teams. That is rubbish, unheard of. And only people who know nothing about senior athletics would ever even suggest that. Right? Because they know that in April, nobody starts to run yet. Right? Nobody starts to, people are peaking for the summer. Right? And what you do more than anything in for the world relays is to run the teams you expect to run down in June. You make them aware early enough that, look, we're going to select you, try and get in shape because we need to qualify. We need to get to the final. Right? But instead what they do, they start picking teams based on who has run 46 and 45 and that kind of stuff. Right? And then again, they compound it by inviting college kids to run in Bahamas. Right? Now, what they should have done, if I had been there and they had asked me, I would say to them, look here, you paid Trinidad, Antigua, and St. Lucia to find 4 people. Right? You come to the trials and you have a 4x4 on the last day. What you must do is shift the 400 so that the finals is on Saturday. But what these jokers have done is that they have pushed the 400 finals down to Sunday. So there's no opportunity for them to have a proper 4x4 here with the people who have qualified based on the trials. Right? So I figure it is, they need to get Mr. Riley, Mr. Wellington, all them people off the committee for seniors. Get people on there whose life is about senior athletics and know the sport. And then we'll will not have these problems.
Do you think the situation can still be rectified? Is it too late
as I said,
to be adjusted?
No, it is not too late. All you have to do is tell the athletes, look, we're starting the 400s from Thursday. Right? Men 400 Thursday, Friday, run Saturday. And then when they qualify, when we understand who's going to run, then we get asked the thing. They have shifted the schedule for the most stupid reason. 400-meter hurdlers. Sidney McCracken is not going to run 400 meter at the US trials, but she will run the 4x4. Like Delilah Muhammad ran the 4x4, not running the 5. Why is it in Jamaica only we feel that we must shift the schedule of the 400 so that the 400 hurdlers can run the 400 so that they can become eligible for the 4x4? That's what the coaches are there for. The coaches must know, okay, this person, what's his name, Rashawn Clark, right, has run a series of 45s. He's a 4x4 candidate. If he runs 47 in the 46 or whatever in the 4x4, in the 400 hurdles, then he's on the 4x4, right? But what these people do is to shift the women's 4x4. Women's 4x4 is now 400 now starting on Friday, just to accommodate the 400 hurdlers. That's just stupid. Right? And it should not, that is what happens when you have people like Riley and Wellington and those people making these decisions. Get them off, make them seniors, let them stay with the juniors. right? Senior people, ask Mr. Mills for people who can go and make decisions for the seniors.
Another topical issue has been the mixed relays and why more top athletes don't run the mixed relay. Clearly, it comes before the flat 400s. For your athlete specifically, would you ever allow a Stephen Francis coached athlete who has flat 400 to run mixed 4x4 before that?
When the shoe companies, who they made a contract with, decide that they were not going to cut them if they medal in the mixed relay and fail to medal in the 400, then we'll do that. But as it is now, where they're living is dependent on, where they depend on their living from these contracts, and the 400 is what going to count for them. They're individual events. So the contract says, if you fail to make the final, or for some contracts, if you fail to medal, you will be reduced by 50%, 40%, whatever amounts. Femke Ball can do that because she has a major backing from her government. Right, so she doesn't depend on any shoe contract. So does Paulina in Dam Rep, and so on. Jamaicans get 0 cents and $0. So therefore, they have to focus on what they need to do to keep their contracts going. And unfortunately, none of the companies reward the mixed relay 4x1 or 4x4.
Yeah, fair
so they are not a priority.
Yeah, one of the most straight-talking coaches we've ever seen in the history of Jamaica's track and field. Ricardo, you were one-on-one with Stephen Francis today. He had a lot to say, and as usual, very serious about what he's saying.
Yeah, very serious about what he's saying. One of the things I'm quite happy about, Lance and Donald, is that he said that we can still salvage the 4x400 relay for the Olympic Games. And as he pointed out, because I was deliberate in asking him the question whether there is still a chance that the schedule could be adjusted for the national championships to allow for a 4x4 to be contested on the final day, and he seems to think that there is still a chance, and that was a massive positive for me.
He also addressed the issue of the panels, the committees handling, and he felt that they don't have expertise in the senior aspect of things, although they are quite good at what they do in the junior division. Does he have a point there?
Well, for me personally, Lance, I don't really want to get into the personal debate, but what I will say is that I myself had a look at that selection policy for the World Relays, which I got wind of earlier this year, around the time when the event happened. And I had the same concerns that Stephen Francis pointed out in that interview today, because I couldn't understand how you could, for example, look at a 2023 season where you have high quality athletes and not have those athletes as essentially first picks when you are dealing with a world relay setup. So that for me was concerning, how the policy was written. And it is not to say, because I'm very sure that the J3s will say, well, we're not saying that consideration will not be given to those athletes. So it's important to understand that. But the way the policy was written suggested that pride of place would go to the athletes who have gone fastest in the particular season. And that was a little bit concerning, because as Stephen Francis pointed out, if you're a Sharika Jackson, if you're a Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, if you are an Elaine Thompson Hera, there isn't necessarily a need to go out there and run any blazing times in February, March, April. There's nothing for you to prove. You already can select the meets that you will compete at, when you will compete at those meets. And so when it comes on to athletes like that, I think, and generally just your premier athletes, it is for the National Association to reach out and say, we'll want you at this date for the World Relays. Will you be available? If you'll be available, get yourself in shape and be confident enough that the athletes have the quality and the coaches know what they are doing to get them ready for that. But the way the policy was written was a little bit concerning, because I almost got the impression that if somebody runs 10.12 with a strong positive wind behind them, and they could get selected over somebody who ran 991 last year, but this season has only gone 10.25, and those type of things were concerning for me.
Were you a little bit surprised with how he went after David Riley and Keith Wellington?
No.
Huh.
I wasn't surprised at all. Well, Stephen Francis is that type of character. He says it as he sees it, and he backs down from no one. And I think, I can't say it is what people love about him, but I think it is what a lot of people appreciate about him. That what you get from Stephen Francis is what he genuinely feels. And I think the great thing about Stephen is that he means the sport very well. Because he wants to see Jamaica do well. He wants to see his athletes do well, obviously, but he also wants to see the country as a whole do well.
One more point in regards to special interest, right? Because he made a point in regards to the mixed relays and athletes making themselves available, and as far as his campaign is concerned, it will be difficult for any of his athletes. And he pointed out a reason in terms of sponsorship and not having the backing there. But why would then athletes be made available, the best athletes be made available to qualify a 4x4 team for the Olympics?
Rephrase that question, please.
In terms of special interests, right?
Yes.
And I know we're talking about athletes actually being at the Olympics or at the World Championships, and you ask them to go and run the mixed relay, right? What he was pointing out was athletes' availability to run a 4x4 to get a qualifying time. Now, why would one set of athletes be unavailable for...
It's different for a few reasons. So, one, the mixed 4x4 at the Olympic Games comes before the flat 400.
Right.
So you imagine, and by the way, the rules change from event to event in the short time that the mixed 4x4 has been around, but you've had situations where in the normal relays you can make up to 4 changes at some events.
Right.
You've only been able to make 1 change in the mixed 4x4.
Right.
So imagine now having an athlete running 2 rounds of 4x4 mixed relay before they get to their flat 400, and how that could impact their performance in a flat 400. Yeah? As it relates now to qualifying a team before, you're talking about months in advance. If you're speaking about the world relays, you're talking about months in advance of the global championship. Athletes are competing at different meets, and I think the suggestion is if the athletes understand the importance of the process, then this is something that they can put into their competition program. The World Relays is something that they can put in their competition program that you don't expect to significantly hamper them in any way going forward. But when you get to the Olympics or the World Championships, to have to run 2 really hard races before you even get to your flat event, that's difficult, and that's a lot to ask, especially when there is nothing in it for you.
Yeah, and just to put a lid on this 4x400 qualifying, I would suggest that the Bahamas not qualifying from a Caribbean perspective is probably even a bigger story than the Jamaicans not qualifying. The Bahamians have medaled in 3 of the last 4 Olympics, and were Olympic champions in 2012. So problems there for them as well.
Yeah, problems there for them as well. The good thing for the Bahamians, though, is that they are in the mixed 4x4. So if Stephen Gardner and Shawnee Miller-Weebo decide to contest that they could put together a pretty good team that could make an Olympic final. But I guess from their standpoint, that would be ultra disappointing as well. But not surprising, given what has been happening with
their
Bahamian
400-meter runners
running in recent years.
Yes.
Yes, they have Shawnee Miller-Weibo, yes, they have Stephen Gardner, but the depth is not quite there at the moment to back up those two greats.
All right, thanks, Ricardo, for your expertise on this topic. You can be sure to catch our weekly build-up to the Olympic Games, and that comes in the form of our weekly program, Le Baton, and that will be coming up on Wednesday, and you're going to hear some more from Stephen Francis on that, and it premieres Wednesday, 6 o'clock Jamaica time, 7 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, 7:30 and 8:30 Eastern Caribbean time on SportsMax 2. Ricardo's exclusive sit-down with Coach Stephen Francis continues, and he had a lot to say about the current crop of women sprinters. Here's a snippet.
I don't know how fast Shelley is going to run. I don't know how fast Elaine is going to run. I don't know how fast Brianna Williams is going to run, or Willow's girl, Sasha Lee, or anybody. All I know is what our results here indicate that the young ladies here can do. And I will say that it's the best as a group I've ever seen.
Wow, okay. As we continue to count down the days until the 2024 Paris Olympics, the SportsMax Zone keeps our special features going ahead of this summer's highly anticipated games. Today's feature serves to keep you up to speed with all the news and updates for the games. Here is Gerard Morris-Seeley with Eyes on Paris.
Keeping you up to date on all things Olympics, this is Eyes on Paris. The International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach says the IOC plans to use artificial intelligence, AI, to prevent social media abuse directed at the 15,000 athletes and officials during the Paris Games. The event, which will be held in the French capital, will officially begin on the 26th of July and will feature more than 10,500 athletes competing in 32 sports. These athletes will be protected from social media abuse by an AI-based monitoring service that will detect such threats. On to news from Jamaica now. Five-time Olympic champion Elaine Thompson-Herah will not be defending her women's 200-meter title in Paris, having opted against contesting the half-lap event at Jamaica's Olympic trials set for June 27 to 30. Thomas-Herah's decision comes after a spate of injury concerns since Tokyo 2020 and 2021, where she became the first woman to defend both 100 and 200-meter titles at the same Olympics. To the pool for swimming, Alex Sobers of Barbados is confident he can qualify for Paris 2024, which would mark a third consecutive Olympic appearance for the 26-year-old. Sobers, who took time away from the sport after the Tokyo Games, says he returned last year just to give it another run at Olympic qualification, which he is confident he will do ahead of the June 30 deadline. Football now, speaking ahead of France's Euro 2024 opener against Austria. 25-year-old striker Kylian Mbappe confirmed that he will not be part of the French team for Paris 2024 despite the wishes of French President Emmanuel Macron. Mbappe, who recently signed to Real Madrid from PSG, outlined it was the decision of his new club, but one that he understands. He added that he will be supporting from the stands while hoping that France will secure gold. This has been Eyes on Paris. Until next time, au revoir.